Today I'm going to do a little lathe improvement project. I've always been a bit jealous at lathes that have those quick cam locking levers on their tailstock, because moving the tailstock on my old lathe is a bit cumbersome, especially since the lock nut is hiding underneath the bed instead of the tailstock casting. This is the handle that would originally lock the tailstock in place, but since this lathe doesn't have its original legs anymore, it doesn't fit on the bench that I've built. There just isn't enough room. I do still use the original handle on the cross slides, but it's rather small and it doesn't give you enough leverage, so most of the time I still need to use a spanner to get things moving. I did think about modifying the tailstock, because there is some room underneath here. It might be possible to fit a cam mechanism in here and then put a lever on the back, but that would mean lots of modification and lots of work, and I'm not sure if I'm willing to do that. Last summer I bought that €10 wood lathe, and it uses these simple levers to lock up the tool rest and tailstock, and I think I can replicate this idea for my old metal lathe. These are going to be the new studs that go under the tailstock and the slides. I'm going to thread them with a very coarse thread. That way it will take less than a quarter turn to lock and unlock the tailstock and the slides. I can't thread on my old lathe, so I need to use the other machine. But that's in the old barn and it's bloody cold there. The lathe is still set up for cutting a 2.0 pitch, and that's what I need for in the tailstock and the cross slide. So I will do that first. A bit more. Yeah, that will work. And that's the second one finished. That's pretty decent. I might be getting a little better at cutting thread. It's a bit looser than the original, but it'll be fine. I'm going to cut a 3.5 pitch thread, because apparently that's the coarsest thread I can make on this lathe. These should be the correct gears for cutting a 3.5mm pitched thread. It almost took me half an hour to get these installed. Some of these I've never used before, and I needed to file out the keyways. And on the one at the back, these are compounded gears. There's another one behind here. It didn't fit, so I needed to open up the hole inside a little. I sure wish I had a lathe with a screw cutting gearbox. I think I'm ready to go. I got the compound at 29 degrees. Normally I would plunge straight in, but this is a pretty deep thread. And I will cut till all the blue magic marker is gone. I'm already forgetting to feed in with the compound. Back to 0. Alright. Let's see what happens. Yeah, there's already a bit of metal bonding to the tip of the cutter. Well, I managed to clean up the tip and we're ready to continue. I need to take very light cuts, otherwise the chips will weld to the pointy bit. That was a spring cut. Well, as you can see, this will take a while. I'm getting close. A bit more and then I'll file off the rest. I did make a stupid mistake. I turned in the crosslight too much, and the tool holder and the tool bit, they moved. Luckily I wasn't even halfway, so it wasn't really a problem lining it up again. The blue marker is almost completely gone, so now I'll file down the edges. Well, that should do. I finished making both studs, so now I gotta make some nuts. And if I measure across these threads, it's about 11.6 millimeters. It's probably a little less, but I've decided to drill these 12 millimeters, and that way I can fit my special ground tool that took me almost an hour to make. I've decided to drill the hole at 11.5 millimeters and then ream it out to 12. It's probably not necessary, but I feel like doing that. And it's my project, so why the hell not? Boy, these are good drills. Well, that hole was definitely bigger than 11.5 millimeters, and it was also off center. I should have used a center drill. I'm putting in some paper, that way when I blow out the chips I don't blow them into the spindle and they might end up in the gears. The lathe is developing a new sound. I think it's coming from the motor. Maybe I got the belt too tight. I don't think so. Well, something to investigate later. Well, it's at least 4 months later since I started this project. A lot has happened since then. I had to fix the lathe, and luckily the winter is gone, and I also messed up the threads on the nuts I was making. But I prepared some more stock and I'm ready to try again. So this is going to be attempt number 3. Hopefully this time I will get it right. The last time the tool post slowly rotated, so the thread got caught at a wrong angle. And on the first knot I tried to make the change gears got loose. Alright, let's hope for the best. I probably have to take a million cuts because I'm not using the compound method. I'm feeding it straight in. The compound method, well, it usually gets confusing for me. But I'll move the camera out of the way now because it is in my way. Most of the time the chips weld to the tip of the tool bit, but it's rather easy to push it off with a piece of aluminium. I'm back to 0 on the cross slide, so that means I'm 2 millimeters deep, and I need to go a further half a millimeter, so that's a quarter turn. And things are really slowing down now. I'm going one graduation on the dial at a time, and I'm sometimes even taking spring cuts. But so far so good. I really hope this will work out. If my theory is correct, it should now fit like a glove. Well, a small glove. Not even close. Well, let's take a few hundred cuts more. This is the second test fitting. And it goes a lot further. But it starts to bind up about 3/4 of the way in. And it almost looks like the internal thread is a bit tapered. I can't get it any further, but there's still quite a bit of play. I'll take a bit more off here with a file, and then I'll try again. Well, I finally managed to fit things together, but it's a pretty sloppy fit. I don't like it one bit. The front of the male thread, it turned out to be the problem. After grinding and filing it a bit more, it finally went through. But this is one sloppy thread. For such a sloppy nut, it hardly has any backlash. But I guess that will change over time. But then I just need to reposition the bolt here in order to keep the handle locking in the same position. It takes about half a turn to fully unlock the tailstock. The sound you hear is the plate I installed on the clamp here to keep it from turning. It's rubbing against the inside of the bed. The inside of the bed isn't machined, so I had to do some angle grinding to make some room for that plate. I guess I could remove a little bit more material. I found a piece of shaft from an old printer, and I think it's just long enough to make a nice lever. I will angle it up a bit, that way I will have a bit more clearance for my hands, so I won't hit the bench. I can't go too high, because then the lever will hit the bed of the lathe when I spin on the nut. But first I need to turn down one side of the lever so I can fit one of these small Chinese Banggood balls. That's 8 millimeters, and I need to go to 6 because the thread in those balls is M6. That's 6, but I'll take a bit more off to make it a little easier to cut the thread. I really should start making a die holder. I know I can support it with the tailstock, but then I have to take out those heavy slides because they're in the way. There we go. Where's my ball? Ah, there it is. Perfect. That looks nicer than I expected. I wanted nice big brass balls, but I don't have a ball tuning attachment. But this one doesn't look too bad. I also got some red ones. I'm not sure about those, but I can change them out on special occasions, I guess. I'm going to take off this layer of, well, I don't think it's chrome, probably zinc. That way I don't have to weld through that stuff, which isn't particularly healthy, I guess. Whoa! We got some run out. That's a lot better. There's still some run out. The old shock isn't getting any better. I'm planning to weld it on one side, then reinstall it back on the lathe, and bend the lever as far as I can go, take it off again and weld the other side. Let's see how I can screw this up. Damn spattering. Well, let's bend it up a bit, because this is really too close to the bench. Ah! Damn weld didn't take. Attempt number 2, and I'm pretty sure the weld is better this time, because the lever is already pulling to one side a bit. Here we go. It might still break, of course. Yeah, it does break. Bloody thing. I'm such a crappy welder. I got lucky. It stayed in place, so let's weld it up. Well, that quickly became one of my traditionally bad looking welding jobs, but I'm fairly confident that it won't break loose again. I'll paint it matte black, and well, you won't see it again. And this here is the end result after a bit of painting. And locked in place. I guess it works as good as can be expected. So now the only thing I need to decide is a red or a black ball. I think it works very good. The only problem is in the end of the bed here, where the lever hits the leg of the lathe. But I never turned anything that large, so if that ever becomes a problem, I guess I'll add a shim or two. For now I'm not going to make another lever for the cross lights, because to be honest I just messed up nut number 4, and I just about had it with this project. And maybe you guys have a good tip on how to do this a little easier. So that's it for me. To be continued.